Welcome back to another Beyond All Reason Beginner's Guide, where I'm going to be hitting you with some fast tips that you might not know about the game. If you're learning how to play like I am, I've been coming from the world of Age of Empires and Company of Heroes, and my viewers on Twitch have helped me learn some things that aren't necessarily obvious, and you should pay attention because this will probably help you out as well. If you enjoy the bar content, let me know in the comments and hit me with subscribe. Let's get right into it. I'm not going to waste your time. So, if you didn't already know, you can select a building and do a whole line of it. If you hold shift, right? You could do a whole line of buildings, curve it, whatever. You can hold shift and alt, and you can get a block of buildings, and you probably already knew about that as well. But what I just learned is you can space your buildings out, which is particularly helpful because buildings, when they get destroyed by a raid, can have a chain reaction. Particularly, the energy converters are very explosive, so it might be helpful to space them out so that if one blows up, it doesn't take out all of your production. So the way you're going to do this, if you hold shift and alt, okay, so I'm holding shift and alt, I select my building. Now, typically it would build a block of them, right? Now, it's kind of tricky finger work here, but you can adjust this layout by pressing the Z or X keys. Now, I know that's a lot. So you're holding shift, alt, I've dragged this building out, and if I press Z, look at that. It starts to space them out. So I could space out maybe all of my wind turbines like that. And check that out. Now if that blows up, that's not going to be a chain reaction. Now, the other cool thing about it is it remembers this setting. Essentially, when you press that Z and X modifier, it's spreading it out and making them closer together. So watch, when I do the next line of them now, it's remembered that setting, which could be really nice on the fly. Now you see it's building specific too. It's not doing it for here. Okay, so maybe you always want to space out your energy conversion or something like that. So it's Z makes it bigger and X will decrease it. Okay, now sometimes you might only want to do like a few, like you're probably most realistically doing a few of them right here, but you can play around with this. And how I recommend to test this out: go into a skirmish mode just like I am right now, delete the AI. You can also use, if you type in /cheat and then /no cost, you can get access to everything to test out. So that could be very helpful for you. Now, one way you could really use this on the front line, I've seen players do this, is you can build these dragon's teeth, right? These are your walls essentially in bar, but the bots can, or your tier 1 construction, they can build the pop-up turrets that look like segments of wall, and they can pop up and shoot. So it's pretty cool. So I'm going to show you how to do that, but I got to first real quick build myself a vehicle plant. Oh, there we go. We got it instinct built. Okay, there's my construction. Now, so what I'm going to do here, it's a little tricky, is first I'm going to build my dragon's teeth. Now, your commander can build the dragon's teeth, the wall, but which is dragon's teeth, but they can't make the dragon's claw, which is the turret. And I had to test this out. If you space it out, okay, so if I go, I'm going to do say a line of these walls. You can see I've actually already done it. It remembers from the previous game. Isn't that crazy? Remember your setting if you always want to set your building a certain way. So what I did, I'll put it back to the default setting. So I'm going to press my wall, and let me just decrease it by doing shift, alt, and X. So I looked at the grid of this. Whoop, yeah, I went crazy. I zoomed out. Didn't like that. Try that again. So what you can do is press shift, alt, and X. It makes it smaller. But I looked at the grid, so you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. So I went 1. So that's 2 spots there. I was like, okay, that looks like the spacing I want. So I'm going to do a line of walls, okay? And then I'm going to go back in here, and now I'm going to just place a line of the dragon claws, which will be the pop-up turret, and watch this. Look at that. So that will now place a turret between every wall segment if you want to do something like that, right? But I just thought it was a kind of neat thing for the opponent. They won't see this. It looks like a wall segment. It pops up. It could be really cool. Your opponent might get caught by surprise. And if you play around with these settings, you could really do some cool arrangements of building. So that's a cool tip on how you can build your walls. And again, using just that spacing out layout. And remember, it will remember your settings. So you have to maybe adjust it back and forth if you only sometimes want to spread out like this. Another thing I wanted to go through was how to navigate these hotkeys down here. Now, let me just show you just a quick reminder. I have gone into my my interface here, or in my options, and if you go into interface, you can go the setting. Where is it at? It's, oh, is it game? Control, yes. So if you go to your key bindings, you see I have it on grid optimize. It's originally on default. So you want to switch it to grid optimize, but maybe you've already done that. But even with this, I was struggling coming from Age of Empires, like getting out of my menus. Because if I press Z and I'm like, okay, well, I want to go up a menu and I hit escape, like it doesn't go up like I expected it might to do. How it works with the grid layout in bar is you have to press, it's when you release shift that it goes up a menu. So for example, see I hit ZZ, or hit Z for a metal extractor, but I'm like, I want to go back up a level. If I tap shift, now I'm back up at the main level. Okay, so here I'm in combat, I hit X, hit shift, it'll go back up. So you have to tap shift to go back up. But a lot of times you're holding shift, right? Because you're probably like, okay, say I'm queuing those, and then maybe you now want to go up, you're going to release shift, and it'll go out of there. But maybe I'm queuing up a radar tower, and then when I release, well, I clicked it there, but if I had those queued up and I hold release shift, that's when I'll go back up. So use shift to get in and out of these menus. And it's way different. It feels different, at least for me, going from Age of Empires, but this helped me a lot with those grid layouts. So use shift to get out of your menus, and that's really going to help you use those hotkeys more efficiently. Now, another tip I want to give you is about solar versus wind. Now, notice this is a map that has no wind, so clearly don't use the wind here, but essentially you only want to use wind if it's higher than 7 as far as that max amount. So think about some maps like this, you're not using wind at all. But what I also want to point out is the difference in cost between these two. If you're floating a ton of metal and maybe you have like no energy, you're really poor in energy, or you just lost all of your solar. If you look at the difference, the wind turbines, they cost 37 metal and 175 energy to produce. On the flip side, these solars, they cost a lot of metal but have 0 energy cost. So metal is typically the more rare resource, but in the moments where you're floating metal, don't make it harder by also producing these turbines, which is going to cost energy to get up online. You can build some solar when you have extra metal, and then as you tier up through to the next levels and you start adding in fusion reactors and stuff like that, go ahead and reclaim those. So you can either hit E or hit the reclaim button, but get those resources back out of that. But that's a good way for balancing your economy out. You might want to consider solar if you have a lot of metal and you're trying to fix your balance there. Also, these energy converters going to be super important. That's like the backbone of your economy, because you get your original metal extractors, but those are limited, right? And then you're essentially from there, you're trying to get more resources by trading that energy to be metal. So use those energy converters. And if you're going to be converting a lot of energy and you start to notice, like in this case, right, I'm wasting metal, you want to build some metal storage because you don't want that to be lost. Or if you're like reclaiming one of your buildings, make sure you've got one of these metal storages set down. Otherwise, you're just not going to get that metal. It's going to float away to your team or something like that. Now, the final tip I'm going to leave you with here. Oh, actually, two more. In my last guide, I was really upset. I forgot to talk about the construction turret. These are so important. Your build power, I think of is pretty much your third resource in this game. You've got your energy, you got your metal, but then build power is a really big thing. So you build these construction turrets in the area, usually like a block behind your production buildings, and they will use the energy to boost that building and help you with your building. So whether you're building a fusion reactor here and you want to have, it's better than having one construction turret, and you don't make a ton of construction vehicles like you might villagers in Age of Empires.
Of the same kind.
There it goes, tells you make one of its kind. But instead, you might make a bunch of turrets here, and you can quickly, you can use that to boost your production of units there. So I've got a cheat on right now, so it's gonna be like instant anyways. And you can also use it to reclaim. So look, now I'm gonna reclaim that metal, and I'm gonna go up to the tier 2. Right? So use these construction turrets. They're very, very important, but don't make too many of them if you're out of resources. Only make what you can afford to be spending. You want to be spending all of your resources. Now, the commander, you can blow him up. So he will do a big boom, right? You might lose him on the back line, a front line, or maybe you've lost him in your base before. But you'll see people immediately doing this in games. They self-destruct their commanders. And the reason why they do this is you can reclaim the metal from the commander. They're worth quite a bit of metal. Make sure you're not going to lose it. Remember the thing I said about metal storage. So I'm going to go ahead and self-destruct them. So if you select your commander, you usually want to walk them like into a corner way far away from your base. I accidentally, the first time I did this, blew up all of my energy converters. It was the worst. So I'm going to hit Control and B. It's control boom, right? B. So control B, boop, he will count down, then he will explode. And then from there, you can see I have once again, there we go, great demonstration. Make sure you're far enough away from your base because otherwise it's going to blow up everything. But what I was going to say is you can then go to that commander and you can reclaim the metal. So use one of your bots and reclaim that metal, and that's really going to help boost you. Particularly, you'll see backline players do this a lot because you can use that metal to get to that next tier, to get those first fusions out, to get those tier 2 units. So that's a thing you can use, but if you reclaim all of your commander, you can't use them to degun those tier 3 units later in the game, which can be really nice to snipe out with your commander. I've also heard you can reclaim all of the metal but leave just a little bit in it, and then you can actually revive it. You can resurrect it. So if you want to bring your comm back, you can do that. But now that I've blown up my base, but I also hit all my tips, that's going to be it. So I hope you enjoyed these quick beginner tips for Beyond All Reason. Hope it helps you out. Let me know if it did. I've got a Discord link down below, and you can join, grab the bar roll, and we've got a chat where you can strategize with me, and hope to see you for one of my next live streams over on Twitch. Till next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.